It's about 10:30 in the morning here on Monday. I don't know what it is, February 20th? No. That would be... Anyway, Monday, February 17th. I'm going to guess 17th. I'm probably wrong. But that's kind of the message of this video. So anyway, I'm standing out here on the easternmost part of the road that I have the cattle in. They all decided to come over here and sun. I decided to sun with them. The sun is nice and warm. The air is like 36, 37, 38 degrees, something like that. But this is the property line between me and my neighbors to the east. And this is the back 20 that I talk about sometimes. This is part of the back 20. It's about, I'd probably say 1/3 of it, right? When you look at a map or a satellite photo, you see that this is just a small part of the back 20. One of the points that I'm going to make right now is that when you're dealing with multiple acres, the distances, like your brain really can't conceive of the distances, right? So I don't think of like feet. I don't know if the right way to put it, but I know that I can walk from here to the other end in about 5 minutes, right? So I know that once I start walking, it's gonna be about 5 minutes before the other end, right? But I don't know how many steps that is. I don't really have an accurate conception of, the number of posts. I know that if I do 14 posts that I get to the other side if I do 24 steps, right? But, like those numbers, they're big. They're hard to deal with. And even a smart guy like myself that studied physics and, got pretty good grades, it's hard to conceive of, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I wanted to talk about some things today that are important that I think that used to be taught a long time ago in schools, not necessarily public education. This is information and knowledge that really helps you to make good decisions and think clearly and straight, right? And I'm going to talk in a way that a lot of people will find offensive because nowadays we're obsessed with niceness culture, and we're obsessed with being sensitive to each other, and we're obsessed with considering other people's feelings, okay? And the way that I'm going to talk doesn't consider anyone's feelings, right? Because feelings don't enter into it. It's about logic. It's about reason. It's about what is and what isn't, right? It's about truth, right? And truth doesn't play games. Truth is not something that we can massage, right? Something is true or it is false, right? There's no in between, right? So, first statement I'm going to make. Everything that you think you know is probably wrong, most likely, right? And I'm being very charitable when I say that, because the truth is probably everything you think you know is wrong, okay? There's a good chance that everything you think you know is wrong. And this is the foundation of wisdom, right? And just to kind of clear your mind about things, like there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge, okay? Wisdom is knowing what to do and why, kind of the why. And knowledge is knowing things to be true or false, right? And our culture says that it's obsessed with knowledge, and it doesn't consider wisdom. Like, it doesn't even talk about wisdom anymore. Ancient man, a long time ago, they only cared about wisdom. They didn't care about knowledge. Knowledge to them was temporary and almost meaningless. They would rather have wisdom than knowledge, right? And so Socrates, back in 600 BC, he was arguing with a group of people. They're called the Sophists, right? According to what we know, right? I don't know if this actually happened or if it's a story, but according to what we were told, the Sophists told Socrates that being correct is not as important as like doing the right thing, right? So if somebody needed to take medicine to get healthy, and that medicine was painful and disgusting and gross, it was justified, morally justified, to tell them that the medicine didn't taste bad at all, that it's actually quite sweet, right? In order to convince them to take the medicine, right? Even though it's a lie. It's okay to lie to people if it's good for them, right? And Socrates wanted none of that. He said, no, we should be obsessed with truth, because how are we going to know if that medicine's actually good for somebody unless we know the truth, right? And if we're always lying to each other about things, then there's no way we can possibly know the truth, right? And so Socrates kind of, he didn't really start, but he kind of perpetuated this tradition of being obsessed with truth and knowledge, right? And of course, what did he get for it? They forced him to commit suicide because they claimed he was corrupting the youth by asking questions about what virtue really is and what people should do, right? As opposed to what they were told to do, right? Anyway, okay, I'm going to bring a practical example. And somebody made a comment on one of my videos last night. They said something microplastics, something, okay? And I think it's safe to comment on microplastics right now, that the censorship monsters aren't out in force trying to tell people not to use their cognitive faculties when discussing the topic of microplastics, right? And this has to do, if you want to know what this has to do with, it has to do with the big V word about whether or not we should inject poisons into our body in the name of health. It has to do with the C word about whether or not there was a certain disease that was spreading through the population in the 2020s, early 2020. It has to do with a certain kind of test that people claimed would accurately tell you whether or not you had a certain disease that later proved to be false, but we still can't talk about that freely. It has to do with certain treatments that people said that you can take this or that and it will help you, right? And it has to do with all of that, okay? But I'm going to talk about microplastics, but it also has to do with certain chemicals that are claimed to be poisons in the atmosphere that are destroying the earth by changing the laws of thermodynamics, if you catch my drift. Okay, so all of those things, right? It also has to do with political philosophies and, you know, whether we should put tariffs on Chinese goods or not. Okay, it has to do with everything like that. Okay, but I'm going to talk about microplastics, right? Okay, so somebody said in a newspaper, and obviously newspapers never lie. They're always true. The newspaper said that these researchers found tiny bits of plastic inside of someone's body. And the researchers said that they don't know what effect that has on people. There's a possibility it could be nothing, but there's the possibility it could be causing all sorts of diseases that we've never heard of before, right? Okay, that's basically the fact, okay? Now, since the researchers published that fact, various newspapers, who we can believe never lie, and I'm being sarcastic. If you don't know what sarcasm is, look in the dictionary. It's in there, unlike naivety. Naivety is not in the dictionary. So the researchers said some things, and then the newspapers and the journalists and the internet personalities and the YouTube videos and websites said that basically microplastics are now the new poison, okay? And we need to eliminate microplastics from the environment and from our animals that we eat and from our food, and we need to get them out of our body, okay? Let me just sigh for a second and just say, how many times have we heard something like this? X is going to kill us all, and so we need Y, okay? Isn't that what we hear all the time, right? Okay, so how do you know if that's true? First of all, the claim that X is going to kill us all, and how do you know that Y is the cure, right? So I don't know that anybody has a plan for getting rid of microplastics, aside from like not using plastics ever again, which is not a plan. That's just not even a starter. Like you can't come to me and say never use plastics again, because I would laugh at you and say, do you even know what plastics are? And do you even know how we're using it right now? And what do you propose we use instead of plastics, right? So like looking at this electric fence wire, which is pretty much the same for anybody that does regenerative grazing, which is right now it's pretty much everybody. What you're looking at is 99% plastic, maybe 100% plastic with a tiny fraction of aluminum, and I think there's copper. No, there's steel in there, okay? You understand? Right? So you're looking at plastics, right? So you come to me and say, we need to get rid of all plastics. And I'm like, okay, what are you smoking? And you probably should stop. It's probably not good for you to smoke that, right? Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. How do you know if it's true that microplastics are harmful? How do you know, right? How do you know? How do you know if they're lying to you for whatever ends that they're trying to say, right? How do you know, right? This is a big question. It's been a question for a very long time. And this is the question of what we call epistemology, right? What is true? What is truth? How do we know, right? You need to make decisions about what you will consider true and false. You need to understand how hard of a question that is to answer and start today of developing a method that you can use to identify truth and error, right? I'm going to give you a few hints, and then from there you should be able to get on the process and make some more observations and insights, okay? Hint number 1, people lie for economic reasons, right? They will lie to your face if they can make an extra dollar, okay? So whenever anybody tells you anything, you need to ask right away, how does this help them make money? And if the answer is pretty obvious, then you could pretty much take it to the bank that they're lying to you. Okay? You understand? That includes me. So when I tell you, hey, you need to eat the cows that I raise because they're healthy, okay, you need to go, oh, he's lying to me. Okay? You need to do that. That needs to be your instinct. Okay? Number 2. Okay? If it's true, then it can be supported with facts that are also true. And there's no need to hide the source of the truth. Okay? So, for instance, if microplastics are harmful, then there should be some kind of obvious proof that they're harmful. And there's no need to hide or deceive people about those facts. Okay? So when I claim to you that, hey, eating my cows will make you healthier, then I need to start justifying that fact with some kind of obvious true thing that you can agree to, objective things that we can all agree to. Boy, this calf is just growing up fast. Okay? You understand? How do you know microplastics are harmful? Is it just because somebody told you? Well, question them. Why would they tell you that? Is there some other ulterior motive they have? The answer is probably yes. Okay? Anything you read on the internet was put on the internet because there's some incentive for them to do so. Okay? Even altruistic, so-called altruistic people, right? Take, for instance, Mother Teresa, right? Kind of the epitome of altruism, right? She had motivations for doing what she did. Okay? Those motivations are in her own self-interest. Okay? Yes, she wasn't making money doing it, but she did do things for her own purposes because she thought that she knew better than other people about what to do. You understand? That's one of the keys there, is understanding that self-interest. There's no such thing as pure altruism. In fact, people who come to you and say things like, well, I'm a true altruist, or I'm a true Christian, or whatever it is they tell you, pretty much guarantee they're lying to you. They have some ulterior motive, right? If they're coming to you with claims that they're super virtuous and they're just better than everybody else for whatever reason, they're lying to you, right? Okay. What else to add? Objective facts. Facts that you can see, facts that you can measure, things that are obvious. Okay? Right, Mr. Cow? Or Mrs. Cow, I guess. Well, you're not married, so Miss Cow. Okay? I want you guys to think critically about everything you hear, especially now that RFK Jr. is in at the FDA, I believe. Okay? And the USDA has new leadership. They fired all the people that were culling chickens because of a certain influenza of the avian sort. Okay? They were doing this not for altruistic reasons. They had ulterior motives. Why were they culling the chickens? Right? Was it because they were genuinely concerned about a disease that has no ill effects that we know of? Think about it. Right? Anyway, guys, not much else to add. Hopefully you got the message. Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.